It was the kind of night where everything felt off. The air had that heavy stillness to it, the kind that makes you second-guess every creak and groan of the house. The clock on my wall read 12:30 a.m., but I was wide awake. The stress from the past week, the overwhelming thoughts, the constant buzz of my phone, it had all been too much. So I decided to take a walk. I know it sounds ridiculous now. A walk at midnight? But at the time, I just needed to clear my head, to put some distance between myself and the world. I stepped outside, the cool night air hitting my face, and I immediately felt a sense of relief. The quiet, the solitude. There was something oddly peaceful about being the only person awake at this hour. The streetlights above me flickered, casting erratic shadows on the pavement. The streets were completely empty. No cars, no people, just me and the cold, silent night. I don't know why, but that quiet made me uneasy. It wasn't normal, not in the way it should have been. I told myself I was just overthinking, that it was just the stress catching up with me. So I took a deep breath, stuffed my hands into the pockets of my jacket, and started walking down the road. The sound of my footsteps echoed in the night, the only noise for miles. Every now and then, a breeze would rustle the leaves on the trees, but aside from that, nothing. Complete silence. As I walked, I couldn't shake this nagging feeling, this eerie sensation that I was being watched. At first, I chalked it up to my overactive imagination, but it kept growing stronger. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was almost a presence. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see someone walking behind me, maybe a jogger, or someone out for a late-night stroll. But there was no one. The road was empty. I kept walking, trying to ignore the tightening feeling in my chest. But then it happened. I heard it. A faint sound. Footsteps. Soft, but unmistakable. I froze mid-step, my heart pounding in my chest. I quickly turned around, but once again the street was empty. No one was there. I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. Maybe it was just a stray dog or a car in the distance. I wasn't even sure why I was so spooked. It was a quiet neighborhood. But when I started walking again, the sound didn't stop. Those footsteps, they were still there. Slow, deliberate, as if someone was following me, but keeping a distance. I didn't know what to do. I kept walking, faster now, my breath coming in shallow bursts. I wanted to believe it was just some coincidence, that it was all in my head. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. And then, just when I thought I might be losing it, I heard the whisper. It was so faint that at first I wasn't sure if I'd heard it at all. It was almost like the wind, soft and unrecognizable. But then I heard it again, clearer this time. You shouldn't be out here. My blood ran cold. I spun around so fast that I almost tripped, but there was no one. No one at all. I was alone, or was I? The footsteps were still there, but now they were closer. Way closer. I couldn't see anyone, but I could feel them. Whoever was following me was right there, just out of sight. My body tensed. I started walking faster, my pace quickening to a near run. It's nothing, I told myself. It's just a neighbor, or a late-night walker. But deep down, I knew this wasn't normal. And then it happened again. Another whisper. You shouldn't have come here. This time I couldn't ignore it. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I didn't even want to look over my shoulder, but I did. And when I did, the street was empty once more. The road was still. I was panicking now. I turned and began walking even faster, my heart racing, my breath ragged. The footsteps followed, always there, always just a beat behind me. But it wasn't just the sound of footsteps now, it was a feeling, a presence. Run, I thought. Just run. I broke into a sprint. My legs were moving on their own. I didn't care anymore. I just needed to get home, get away from whatever was behind me. I didn't even look back. The road seemed to stretch on forever, each step feeling heavier than the last. I was running out of breath, but I couldn't stop. I reached the end of the block, my heart thundering in my chest. I didn't stop. I couldn't. And that's when I heard it again. A louder whisper this time, practically in my ear. "Run faster!" I screamed. I couldn't help it. I had to get away. The footsteps were so close now, I could almost feel them on my heels. I pushed myself harder, adrenaline rushing through my veins. I was almost home. And then I reached the front door. I slammed it shut behind me, locking it with trembling hands. I leaned against it, panting, trying to calm my racing heart. But the silence that followed was suffocating. I thought I was safe, but I wasn't. I turned around, trying to steady myself. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. My hands were shaking as I opened it. "I'm closer than you think." I don't know who it was, or what it was, but I've never walked alone at night again. Every time I hear footsteps behind me now, every time the night feels too quiet, I can't help but remember that voice, that whisper. And I know, it's still out there.